Failure won't kill you, but regret will. I was 26 at that point, and I'm on a bus, and I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Got on at ESPN in 1997, and I was there till the end of 2020. Of those 23 years, I'd say almost 95% of it was pure joy.
How does it work as an employee of ESPN? Is it just like big Disney's the boss, they just tell you what to do, or what's kind of the feedback that you're able to give? Like,
didn't really care for feedback. One point I was asking a question, he goes, oh, just read the glass. F you, buddy. And I'll never forget what he said to me. And that did end my 23-year run at ESPN.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
welcome to Willing to Fail. Today we got a very special guest. He was one of the faces and voices of ESPN for over 20 years. He was actually one of the people that started a little show called NFL Live. He's now a host of a podcast called Alternate Routes. You can also find him as the host of the show Pregame Power Up on the DraftKings Network. You can also find him on NBC Sports and covering the PGA Tour. So without further ado, the legend Trey Wingo. How are you?
Hey, Peyton, good to be with you. Thanks for that.
So yeah, just as a sports fan, I mean, your face and voice is very familiar, and you're a big part of that ESPN brand, and in my opinion, the glory days of ESPN, when that was the only way you got your sports highlights, was listening to guys like you. So as a kid, it's like, that seems like the dream job, working for ESPN, talking about sports all the time. So I'm just curious, it's not talked about enough, is like, how did you get to that point, and what was kind of the work and path you took? So I just want to start at the beginning, like, where are you from? What was your upbringing like, and what got you into sports to begin with?
Yeah, I'm from, I was born in New York City and grew up in Connecticut, in a little town called Greenwich, right outside New York. And just always loved sports, always specifically football more than anything else. And, back then, when you wanted to do that, the way to do it was find a local TV job somewhere, reporting and anchoring. And so out of college, I eventually, after bumming around for a couple years doing other stuff, I made an audition tape and got a job in a tiny TV station in upstate New York in Binghamton. Was there for 2.5 years, got fired from that job. The worst TV station in America fired me. Then I was unemployed for a while. Then I got another gig in Binghamton and was there for 6 months. And then I got an offer to move to Allentown, Pennsylvania to do the sports there. But it came with the caveat of doing Lehigh University basketball and football play-by-play, which I really enjoyed. And I was there for less than 9 months when I got an offer to move to St. Louis and be a anchor reporter there for the NBC affiliate. And I was there for 6 years, and ESPN called, and we can get into all of that because that was a weird thing. And I got on at ESPN in 1997, and I was there till the end of 2020.
Yeah, I do want to get in all the ESPN stuff. So like, everybody loves sports, but what do you think drove you to take the initiative to like go down the sports journalism career path? Were you like studying that in school? Did you have the vision in mind to do that for a long time, or you just kind of fall into it?
I had the vision in mind, and I certainly did not do enough in college to study for it. I would say that my collegiate experience was very social. I changed my major 5 times, I think, including 3 months before I graduated, or 2 months before I graduated, because I was going to graduate as a speech major, and they said, well, you need another lab science. And I'm like, well, then I'm not graduating as a speech major, so we need to figure something out. And I graduated as a communication specialist, which I think, in hindsight, is pretty accurate, I guess. But I always look, I have to credit my father for this, because my dad was a journalist, a print journalist. He worked for a couple of newspapers. He then became a reporter for Life magazine. And in the 60s, he became the bureau chief for the Vietnam War and for Life. And we moved overseas and lived in Hong Kong for a few years. And then moved back to the States in the early 70s. And my dad was with Life until that magazine folded, and they kept my dad on a couple of editors and said, we need a new magazine, come up with a new idea for a magazine. And they put their heads together and founded this thing called People Magazine. And that's going to go down as the greatest magazine launch in the history of the industry because it's been so incredibly successful and nobody's ever making magazines anymore. So they sort of retired the crown. But the reason I say that is I always thought my dad's job was really interesting. It was different. I had friends whose fathers were, lawyers or bankers or attorneys or businessmen or doctors, whatever. And they just seemed to have a very humdrum sort of 9 to 5 existence. And my dad's job was not that at all. And I just thought the way he did it and the things he did were very cool and interesting. And he was very obviously interested in things and found a way to cover that. And I was way more interested in sports than he ever was. And I just sort of took his model and tried to apply it to sports. And so I knew, like I did play-by-play in my high school basketball and a couple of things. And we put together a little TV show back in the day, which was just cringeworthy. But, I tried to take an office job out of college because I was like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to work weekends and nights, and who wants to do that? So I got a job as an account executive at a PR firm in Washington, D.C., and hated it. Like I had an office, it was a good salary, I had a great apartment in Glover Park, which is a really fun area outside of D.C., but I would go into the office every day before the internet was everywhere, and I would just read the USA Today sports page, and I would just lock myself in there and do that. And I was like, okay, clearly this is not for me, so I need to find out what I want to do, and that sort of started me on the path.
What age were you at that? Like mid-20s?
I was 24, I think.
Okay.
Because I graduated and I sort of bummed around for a while, didn't know what to do. And then I got the accounting job, and I was there, the account executive job. And I was there down in DC for 6 to 7 months. And then I moved back home into my parents' basement. And nothing says loser like having a college degree, quitting a job because you didn't love it, and moving back into your parents' basement. And got a job as a page at NBC. For those that aren't familiar, do you remember the show 30 Rock with Tina Fey and Alec Baldwin, all those guys?
Yeah.
Well, there was a character named Jack on the show, and he wore that blue blazer. And that's what a page was. You gave guided tours of the building. You handed out tickets for Saturday Night Live. You worked the store. You did all these odd ends and jobs trying to latch on somewhere. And so I did that for a while, and I was able to make my first demo tape and sent that one out. And that's sort of how that got started.
Interesting. So you sent out a demo tape to like local news?
Oh, everywhere. This was before everything was online again. There was this phone number called Media Line, and you called in, and they had a list of job descriptions. They need an anchor in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They're looking for a weatherman in Wheeling, West Virginia. And so that's how it went. And I sent out a bunch of tapes, and here, I was thinking, well, I worked at NBC. I'm a big deal, and this is going to be easy. And it took a long time to get a really low-paying job at really one of the worst TV stations ever, and it was a humbling experience. But the station was so bad, and this is fun to talk about on this podcast because I do like the premise of what you're doing here. The station was so bad, the quality of the tape that I could make to send out instead of a link, which you send out now, VHS tape that you send to stations, was so bad people wouldn't even look at it. So I remember I got on a bus from Binghamton, New York to Salisbury, Maryland to do a demo tape at a different station because the guy that used to work in Binghamton was now the manager of a TV station in Salisbury. He's like, come down, we'll do a demo sportscast with you on our set with our stuff, and that might help you. And I remember I was 25 or 26 at that point, 25 maybe. And all my friends were, had gotten jobs and graduated or were in law school or doing whatever. And I'm on a bus riding from Binghamton, New York to Salisbury, Maryland, just to make a demo tape that someone would actually look at because the quality of the tape at the station was so bad. And I was like, the hell am I doing with my life? Like, how is this how I've ended up. And it ended up okay. It just you have to be willing to take risks, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there, and you have to be willing to fail.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that story. I mean, I've never heard that story of yours, and I think a lot of people can relate. Like even myself, it's like if you're going on some type of entrepreneurial journey or chasing a passion, like the beginning of that is rough, and especially if you're comparing it to your peers that are the same age as you that have those steady jobs, like they
Yeah.
jump ahead and they got this good paycheck and then everything looks good on the outside, and then you're just kind of feel like you're behind for such a long time until you're not. So when was it? How long were you feel like you were in that mindset until you got a lucky break or got that job at ESPN?
Well, before that, let me just sort of acknowledge and add on to what you said there. When I was a page at NBC, making no money and seating people for the Phil Donahue show and whatever, I got an interview through a connection through my father with a guy named Mark McCormick. Now, that name probably means nothing to you, but Mark McCormick wrote a couple of books, What They Don't Teach You in the Harvard Business School, and he founded this little company called IMG, otherwise known as International Management Group. And he invented sports marketing, basically. Mark McCormick created an industry that is now everywhere. When you see, all the commercials that all the athletes do and the endorsements, Mark started that. His first three clients were Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Gary Player, three golfers. And obviously, Arnie went on to, I think Arnie is still one of the most, long past his death, is still one of the top earners ever in terms of his endorsement value and the things that he still has been able to, the family's been able to continue after his death. So he offered me this job where I was going to work on the Wimbledon clothing line and Mark Cross pens and all this kind of stuff. And he had the most impressive business card I've ever seen in my life. It was International Management Group offers and offices in Cleveland, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Paris, Rome, Athens, Stade. I mean, it was incredible. Rio de Janeiro. I was like, holy shit. So, it was a good paying job. And so I said yes. And then I had immediate regrets because I was like, okay, you started this other thing and you haven't really done it yet. You haven't gotten to where you wanted to go. And if you take this job and don't try the other thing, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I always tell people this. I tell them, failure won't kill you, but regret will. I have a friend that I went to college with who was one of the smartest, funniest guys I've ever met in my life. And he could have been a writer for Saturday Night Live. He could have done whatever. Like, he was just brilliantly smart. But he had pressures that he felt he needed to uphold and do things a little more traditionally. And I think eventually that led to his ultimate demise, because he never, by the time he realized that that was the mistake he had made, he had already sort of gone too far down the road to go back and start over with, family and commitments and all that kind of stuff. And it really, I think it really, that regret aided him his entire life. So, it's okay to fail. Everybody fails. It's not okay to not try. And if it hadn't worked out, that's one thing. Okay. You know what? I took a shot, shoot or shoot, stood up to the plate, took my swings, but if I never put myself in the batter's box, I probably would have driven myself crazy.
No, I'm the same way. I mean, you summed up the whole theme of this podcast better than I could have myself. I mean, I don't know
Good
what
night,
it is.
See you later. That's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, this is fine with me. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. It's like, I don't know what it was from a young age. It's kind of how I base all of my decisions. It's like, okay, what would 75, 85-year-old Peyton regret more? Would you regret not trying and failing, or not trying or trying and failing? It's like, that perspective makes every decision to me a little bit easier of like, and I think a lot of people kind of get in their own way of like, the worst case scenario.
Everybody gets in their own way. Everybody gets in their own way.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a competitive person, and if you want to get into this industry, you better be competitive. I always tell people, if they're trying to break in now, and by the way, it's different now. It's a lot. There's so many other opportunities and platforms for you to be a part of. Back then there was radio stations and there were TV stations. That was it. There were no websites. There were no blogs. There was no Instagram. There was no YouTube. There was no IG Live. There wasn't any of that stuff. You were either on TV or radio or you weren't on TV and radio. So there's a lot of other ways to start now, which is great. And it's just a matter of trying to find a sustainable building business model while you're doing it. But yeah, you just what's the old Wayne Gretzky line? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I could have dealt with that. It would have been a hard pill to swallow and not what I wanted, but I could have dealt with that. And just sort of put a caveat on the story. I turned down that job from IMG to work for IMG because I had to pursue my passion. And we'll get into the career path in a minute, but like the point I'm making was, after I'd gone to Binghamton, New York, and Allentown, Pennsylvania, and St. Louis, Missouri, and landed at ESPN. After I'd been at ESPN for a few years, I got a phone call one day from an agent, one of the top agents, technically at that time, the top agent in the industry, who worked for IMG. And they're like, hey, we really like your stuff. We want to rep you. So it went from me turning down an offer to work for IMG to follow my passions, to me doing what I wanted to do and doing it well enough that the company that I turned down to work for called me and said, we want to work for you. So
Yeah, it's funny how that goes full circle.
Yeah, that was a good one. I remember that day.
So when you're going through that path, that tough path of like pushing yourself to say no to the shiny things and stay focused on your passion, was there a lot of self-talk? Like, were you telling yourself that like, hey, I did play-by-play in high school, like I'm better than everybody at this, I can earn my shot? Or were you just naive to like how good you were at the job and you just loved it?
Well, I wasn't good. I thought I was good, but I wasn't good. I mean, I'll go back and look at those tapes. And I'll be fair, I don't think I was ever really good at play-by-play. I think I was really good at being a host and being an anchor. I did some minor league baseball play-by-play, and I ended up, doing, like I said, some college football, college basketball, and even at ESPN, I got to do some Arena Football League games, which was fun. And I did cover the U.S. Open and the Open Championship for golf for 6 years, 6 summers in a row, which was great, and I loved doing that. And that's what I love about calling things for the PGA Tour and working for the U.S. Open and the Open Championship for NBC Sports, which I've done the last couple of years. So that's really, really fun. But I thought I could be good at it, but I wasn't good at it. Like, there's a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and it basically talks about the keys to success. And the keys to success aren't doing a million different things. The key to success is doing the same thing 10,000 times and getting good at it. It's like you see all these quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, Mitchell Trubisky, that have 13 to 15 starts in their collegiate career, and the talent is there, but they haven't put in the reps. They haven't put in the time. And it's not against them. I mean, it's not Mitchell Trubisky's fault that the Bears took him second overall in 2017 when the Patrick Mahomes saga took place with the 10th overall pick, and Anthony Richardson, I think, has had 19 starts since high school. And he's sort of been thrust into the situation. We rush these things, and you see a guy like Sam Darnold now.
Oh, there's
Baker
a bunch
Mayfield.
of them this year.
Baker, 2018, number 1 overall pick. He's on his 4th team, and he's finally in a good spot and home and comfortable. Sam Darnold, same way. Geno took Geno won the Comeback Player of the Year award, and people were like, oh, he wasn't injured. I said, do you know how harder it is to be not good and then find a way to be good than to be really good, have an injury and rehab it and come back and be good again? That's way easier. That's so much easier than being Geno, who was, I think it was in 2011 or 2012, one of those years, waited to the second round, the last guy in the room, and had a horrible start to his career with the Jets, and then sort of bounced around as a backup, and then a couple of years ago found his way in Seattle and has made a living. That is so much harder than just, oh, I'm really great, and then, oh, I busted my knee or my shoulder or whatever, and then you rehab it and come back, oh, you're great again. That is, I'm not discounting the rehab and the work you put in, but the innate DNA was there. You had to find that DNA in Geno Smith. And Sam Darnold is 27 years old. He's the same age as Joe Burrow. He actually might be a few days younger. I'm not sure. They're only off by a couple of days. You know, the Jets were a terrible situation for him, and you know, then he tried to save that at Carolina, and that didn't work out. That wasn't a good situation. And then he was, you know, a backup in San Francisco, and lo and behold, he gets an opportunity this year, and he's playing on an MVP level. Sometimes it just takes a little longer for the pie to bake. And you know, we look at these kids and we think when they're 19 or 20 or 21, they should figure it all out. What a load of crap that is. Like that's those guys are the few and far between. Those are the rarest of the rare. Almost everybody struggles. Almost everybody, you know, not everybody throws 50 touchdown passes their first year as a starting quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. That's the outlier. That's not the norm. So
He
we
still
should
had a
stop
year to sit.
associating that. Yeah, and he sat for a year. You know, he said it really helped him.
Interesting. So back to your story, like, so you're going through, and then do you feel like your big break was just getting in ESPN, or do you feel like you were already getting good at your job before then?
Well, when I got to St. Louis, I got there in November '91, and then in the summer of 1992, I was coming back from doing a story on some high school track star or whatever, and there was a little note on my desk that said, "Call this number and ask for Al Jaffe." And it was a 203 area code number. Now, I knew growing up in Connecticut, the entire state was 203 area code. So I'm like, who's calling me from Connecticut? And I was like, ooh, wait a minute. I remember that name. That was the name of the guy at that time, was the talent recruiter for ESPN. Somehow they had gotten a tape of my, I had not sent them a tape. I didn't have an agent at that time to send a tape. So nobody did it on my behalf that I was aware of. Somehow, somewhere, they had gotten a tape of mine, and they wanted to talk to me about coming up and being a part of this new network they were launching called ESPN2 in 1993. 1992, sorry. And so, you know, they were interested in me at a very early age, like 6 years before I got, or 5 years before I got there. And they asked a very specific question when I was on the phone. They said, "Are you under contract with your current employer?" And I was, "Yes, I'm in second year or first year of a 3-year contract." As well, you know, the only way we'll be able to talk to you, because we want to avoid tortious interference, is if you get permission from your station. I'm like, well, I'm not even the main guy, so of course they'll let me go. So I went up to talk to them, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to let you go. Sorry, you can't do that interview." I was like, well, if we do it for you, we have to do it for everybody, which is such crap. But you know, the idea was for me to get to ESPN in the summer of '92, and I didn't get there until the fall of 1997. And you know, St. Louis was a great town. I enjoyed working there, but I would have surely liked to have gotten to ESPN a little earlier and been a part of the process than when I did. It was just not something that was legally available to me at that time, and that was a difficult pill to swallow.
I bet. So was ESPN like, I mean, were they always like the big pie in the sky, like the big goal that you were always going for?
Well, for me, it was because I was from here, you know, like, and you know, it was a chance to go back home, and um, you know, we both were from Connecticut, and the idea of being around family again would be great. And you know, at that point, ESPN was just really beginning to establish their dominance. You know, I would say when ESPN signed the NFL contract in '88 for Sunday Night Football, I think that was the turning point. Obviously, anybody at ESPN will tell you once they got the rights to the NFL, that's when things really took off. And you know, from the early '90s to about 2012, it was a nonstop rocket ship of just positive energy, money, ratings, the whole thing. And then eventually, so funny when cable was first starting, people that worked in free television, you know, ABC, CBS, NBC, were like, "Whoa, what is this? Why are you paying for television? You know, well, that's crazy." And you know, and ESPN was the little thing that sort of rode that thing to momentum. And then what ESPN didn't quite figure out in time was, well, what is this internet thing? Like, no, we're going to do it on TV. And people, you know, the technology shift was, okay, cool. But most people are now consuming things in a different way. And I remember the last few years at ESPN, you know, the big concern was, how do we get more viewers back? How do we get them back from where they're consuming things now? And the concession eventually was, you don't. You just have to go where they are, which is why ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, all these things are taking off, and that's the way people consume them. Look, games will always get ratings. I think last year 77 of the top 100 rated television shows were NFL games. I mean, that's just how dominant. That's how dominant the NFL is on the landscape. But if you don't have that, it's hard to get eyeballs. Why would I do that when I can watch it whenever I want to watch it? There was a time when you had to sit down and say, "Oh, the show's on at 8. I need to be in the chair to watch the show at 8 o'clock." Well, that doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't happen. So, the thing that it just kind of interesting, the thing that climbed ESPN to the top, while free TV was like, "Oh, what's that little thing?" is sort of the exact same thing we're seeing now, where, at one point, I think ESPN had 110 million subscribers, and I think they're down to 70 million or so. And I remember when my kids graduated from college and like, we're going to get an apartment. We don't need cable. Like, no, you're getting cable, and I'm paying for it because that's how I got you through college, is through cable. So, there's just been a seismic shift in how you consume things, and now everything's online and you can stream it whenever you want, and it's a different dynamic out there.
Yeah, always changing for sure. So what were you doing between that time that the company wouldn't let you take the interview or talk to ESPN from 92 to 97?
Yeah, it's just working in local sports at the NBC affiliate in St. Louis, and it was kind of fun. I mean, I was there for for Mark McGuire's arrival in St. Louis, which was a huge deal. I was there when the Rams moved from LA to St. Louis. I was there to watch Brett Hull and Adam Oates do really well in hockey for the St. Louis Blues, and it was fun to see the Blues finally win the Cup a couple of years ago. That was really a lot of fun. So I was just working local sports, and trying to figure out what was going on, and just trying to advance my career any way I could, and waiting for that next opportunity, that next phone call, which came in 1997.
And what was that phone call like?
Come on up for an interview, because I told the station I'm not going to sign another contract, and the news director was like, "Well, we need to sign this to protect you." I'm like, "Well, shit, you're trying to protect me. You're trying to protect yourself." So I was like, "Look, I'm just not going to, my contract was up in a couple months. I'm like, I'm not going to sign a new contract." And so, it was sort of a leap of faith. So I got the call, went up there for the audition, and, they set you up in the newsroom with a producer and all this kind of stuff. And you go through the audition, and we got on the set, and we were about ready to roll. And they said, "Oh, hang on, we got to stop." And I was on the set for like 40 minutes or something while they were figuring something out. I'm like, "Is this what you do? Like to sweat test somebody to see if they can handle the stress just waiting for the audition to begin?" And, so they liked the audition. They offered me a job, and I took it. And that was the beginning of a 23-year run of those 23 years. I'd say almost 95% of it was pure joy.
That's awesome. Yeah. So for that audition, what do they have you do? Like audition as like a TV host? Is that what kind of
Yeah,
the
fake. You just do a fake, a little fake newscast, 5 minutes, or sportscast, 5 minutes. On camera, "Hi, so and so, welcome to Sports Center. Here are the highlights. Blah blah. Do that. Come back on camera. Toss to this. Do that. Just basically a mini Sports Center for like 5 to 7 minutes to see how you handled the highlights and how you handled relating to the camera and all that kind of stuff.
And I'm sure at that point you were probably pretty comfortable doing that because you've done it for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yes, absolutely. But you're still like, okay, this is probably the biggest 5 minutes of my life professionally. Don't screw it up. And luckily went through and clean as a whistle. And, a couple of weeks later, they offered me the job.
And then what do they have you doing at first there? Just hosting like Sports Center?
No, that was when ESPN News launched. So we started ESPN News, and I was an ESPN News anchor. And then I started noticing that every once in a while they'd put a Sports Center on my schedule, or a Baseball Tonight. And at that time, Baseball Tonight was one of the biggest shows at ESPN because they could do in-game highlights all the time, and they'd be live from 10 to 11, then 11, then 12 to 1, to wrap up all the games. And there was a lot of eyeballs on that show. And I remember when I started getting some Baseball Tonight, somebody said, "Hey, this is a really good thing for your career that you're doing Baseball Tonight." So, all right, cool. So I did that for a while, and then they made me the solo host of the 6 o'clock Sports Center. I did that for 2 years. And then they said, "We want to move you to the NBA." And I was like, "All right, but I don't really see this as a long-term career goal for me." So I did the NBA Tonight for a year, and I said, I'm not doing this again. We need to find something else for me to do. And then they said, "Well, how do you feel about launching this new show called NFL Live?" And so in 2003, we started NFL Live. And just so people understand, at that point, NFL Live was on Tuesday through Saturday. In other words, all the days where there weren't football games, NFL football games. Tuesday through Saturday on ESPN2, it was a half-hour show with no set time slot. In other words, all right, we'll fit it in at 3:30 in the afternoon or 7:30 at night or 8 o'clock. So we just sort of floated all over the place, but it became kind of a hit. And so after a couple of years, we moved from a half-hour show Tuesday through Saturday on ESPN2, where nobody really knew where we were, to doing an hour on ESPN Monday through Friday, 4 to 5 Eastern. And that was a lot of fun. And that was a really good time. And the people that I did that show with are still some of my best friends in the world, whether it's Teddy Bruschi, Darren Woodson, Mark Schlereth, Damian Woody, Herm Edwards, Tim Hasselbeck, Merrill Hodge. All those guys are still my Jeff Saturday. All those guys are still good friends that I consider good friends today. And it was basically those 15 years of doing NFL Live, which was really a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, just as the consumer, that was something like you saw on the TV Guide channel. You're like, yes, NFL Live's on.
Yeah.
Let's put that one on.
Hell yeah,
What
brother.
kind of going back to you, like them bouncing you around to the NBA, coming up, like, how does it work for people that don't know of, like, as an employee of ESPN? Is it just like big Disney's the boss, they just tell you what to do? Or what's kind of the feedback that you're able to give? Like, hey, I don't want to do NBA, or hey, I have an idea, or like, how was the idea of the NFL Live thing born?
Well, I mean, for the most part, a lot of the executives who are no longer there, by the way, didn't really care for feedback. Weren't really interested in it. I once had someone who is still there, by the way, so I won't mention his name. And we got along fine. But one point I was asking a question. He goes, "Oh, just read the glass," which is just, in other words, just read the teleprompter. I was like, "F you, buddy. That's not what I'm here to do," But that was the attitude. Oh, just sit in the chair and do what we tell you. Do what we tell you to do, And that was their managerial style for a long time, which I thought was kind of counterproductive. I've always found that people tend to do better work when they're motivated by opportunity as opposed to fear. And when you feel like you're part of something and you are building something together, for me, that seemed to be much more fun than somebody yelling at me and saying, "Oh, well, we didn't like this." I'm like, okay, well, like, what are you trying to do? Like, are you getting off on a little power play here? Is that how you get your jollies? Because I don't think it's really helping. But hey, if it works for you, Skippy, go for it. So that was sort of that mentality. And I took a chance when I said, I don't want to do this. We got to find something else for me. They could have said, "F off. There's plenty of people that want your job, and we'll just thanks for being here for 6 years and good luck with the rest of your career." They could have done that, but they didn't. I have to believe that's because they thought I brought some value to the table, and so that's how the NFL Live thing took off, and that's how I got to do the draft, and that's how the other thing, which was, I don't want to say great, but it was a really profound experience for me, was Bob Lee and I did the Sports Center on 9/11. We were the only people doing shows that day, and we did. We were supposed to go on for like 20 minutes, and we went on for like 3 hours that night, and then Bob and I just carried the Sports Center banner that week, just trying to put into context, obviously, what had happened, but how it affected what we did, which was the world of sports. So that was fun, but that the NFL fun is not the right word. That was a really meaningful experience, and I was glad I was able to share it with someone like Bob. And then doing NFL Live, as again, football and the NFL has always been my favorite sport, and that led to the draft, and taking over for Boomer to be the full-time host of the draft for 5 years was great. The COVID draft was certainly a challenge in 2020. We had no idea until 45 days before the draft that everything that we had planned was going to go up in flames. And I was the only person in the studio. It was me and a couple of camera people and a stage manager, and it was Louis Riddick, Michael Irvin, Kurt Warner, Booger McFarland, and Mel Kiper Jr., and Daniel Jeremiah, all remote, because the NFL studios in California were completely shut down. They wouldn't let anybody go in because of COVID. So ESPN was the only way to get the draft. And that draft remains the highest rated draft in the history of the NFL draft. And I mean, part of that was because there was nothing else to watch, but we found a way to get it done, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. That was a very unique challenge.
Okay, well, I guess kind of the same topic of giving feedback and to ESPN of what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Like, how did that eventually lead to parting ways with ESPN?
Yeah. In 2017, they decided to break up Mike and Mike, the radio show. To this day, I have no idea what they were thinking when they did that. That was a profit machine for ESPN. And the guy that was in charge of radio said, "Hey, we'd really like you to work with Golick on this new radio show called Golick and Wingo." And I really loved my job. And at that time, again, I did NFL Live, I did the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, or the British Open. I did Wimbledon. I did the U.S. Open tennis. I did the draft. I really liked my job. I really liked my job. And I was like, I don't know if I talked to a friend of mine that I really liked. I don't know if I want to take this other job. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, "Just so you know, they consider this to be a huge promotion for you. And if you don't take this job, they're going to hold it against you." And this one executive in particular, who again is no longer there, said they'll hold it against you and they will take it out on you in your next contract. It's like, all right. So it's nothing against Golick. Mike and I work together on DraftKings now and with Junior. So that has, he and I did NFL Live together for years. It was just, the idea of getting up that early and shifting from what I really loved, which was golf and the NFL and a little bit of tennis, to doing all the other stuff as well. So I said, fine, I'll do the job. And it was a nice escalation in certain areas of my career, if you understand what I'm saying. But I knew in the first week that this was not for me. So much in the same way when I told them about, hey, look, the NBA thing, thanks, but I got to figure something else we're going to do here. And I told them about a year, and I had my agent tell them and say, look, thanks, you asked me to do this, and I did it. We'll do it for 3 years, but I don't think I want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. And sure enough, they thought that was the most egregious thing that I could have said to them. And I thought I was being a good employee, trying to look, I don't want to do this anymore. And that basically led to the parting of ways. But there's an overall theme here that I want to sort of emphasize. And it's sort of the leap of faith that I've been talking about. I've taken leaps of faith several times in my life for a variety of reasons that didn't make any sense. Like turning down IMG to go work in Binghamton, New York for $10,000 a year when I could have traveled to all these wonderful places and made really good money and had a really interesting job. But I had to do the other thing. When they moved me off the 6 o'clock Sports Center and put to the NBA, I could have said, okay, there's a huge product for ESPN. We just got the NBA rights. It's a big thing. It's huge promotion. I went to the NBA finals, all this kind of stuff. Maybe we should do this, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I told them, I don't want to do this. We need to find something else for me to do. And that created the opportunity for a 15-year run as the host of NFL Live. We created that show out of nothing. Really proud of that. And that led to the draft and, taking over for Chris Berman when he stepped down as the host of the draft. And that led to other opportunities with the U.S. Open golf and tennis and Wimbledon and all that kind of stuff. And then when a lot of people in my position would have said, look, you're making really good money. Best money you've ever made in your career. Just do this thing for a while. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. It's not what excites me. It's not what interests me. It's not something that I wake up every day, yes, this is what I'm going to do. So I said no. And that did end my 23-year run at ESPN, but it also led to these amazing opportunities that have been phenomenal since then, whether it's working with, I worked for Caesars for a while as helping them launch their sports book and get things going, whether it was my own podcast that I started called Half Forgotten History, which was really a lot of fun sitting down and talking with athletes. It led to me working for the PGA Tour. It led to me working for NBC Sports. It led to me now working with DraftKings. So again, the mantra is follow your heart. Like, do the things that you feel compelled to do, not the things that you feel like you should do. And every time I have taken that sort of approach to something in life, it has tended to work out.
Yeah, I don't hear many stories of people that are that gun-ho on that idea that it doesn't work out. I think following your passion and your gut and going down that path, I think usually as long as you work hard and do the right things will end the way you want it to. So what is, like, I mean, you said you hated it, or I guess you didn't say hate. You did not love the morning radio. I've had Himbo on here, and he says that the idea of waking up in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. or whatever it is that the main thing that you didn't like about that job?
Certainly that was a big part of it, but like, and you know, if you start your career the way I started my career, you know, you're basically working nights your whole life. You know, you're doing the late sportscast, or you're doing the local news at 10 or 11 o'clock or whatever. So that adjustment was difficult very late in my career, and yet certainly I felt like I was a zombie half the time. God bless him, that guy can sleep anywhere. Like, he can fall asleep in a second. He's like a cat. You know, he can fall asleep anywhere. I was not blessed with that gift. The other part that I didn't like about it, just being honest, for me, is that if you do a morning radio show from 6 o'clock in the morning on, you know what you're not doing? You're not watching the games that go till 11:30 midnight at night, like, or later. And I didn't like that. Like, I watch all the NFL games. You know, my Sundays and my Mondays and my Thursdays are pretty much the same routine. I am watching the football games. I didn't like pretending like I watched the games, you know, and like, you know, they'd have clips for us and see this happen, but it's one thing to see the highlights and read the recaps. It's another thing completely to watch and absorb it and soak it in. And that, for me, I didn't like that part of it at all. And I also didn't care about what LeBron James did on a Tuesday night in November in an NBA game. Didn't matter, you know, like, for me, and you know, I stayed up and watched, you know, college football playoffs. I watched all the NFL games and the primetime games. You know, that's not a problem. But I didn't want to fake it. Like, the passion I have for the NFL and the passion that I have for golf is real, because I feel that way about them. And I didn't like the idea. I had someone told me, here's the character, once another executive no longer at the company, here's the character we envision you playing on the radio show. And I was like, character? What are you talking about? I'm just going to talk about sports. Like, I had this whole idea of like, well, you should do this and do that. Like, yeah, that's not why I did this. That's not why I got into this business. I don't want to be someone's character. Either you're going to like the way we talk about sports, or you're not going to like the way we talk about sports. But we're going to talk about sports. We're going to do it in a way that I think is meaningful and non-hyperbolic and not hot takey, but based on, you know, the things that actually happened.
Makes sense. So are you, it sounds like you're enjoying now. I mean, you obviously had an incredible run at ESPN during their glory days, and now seems like you're more of an independent artist, if you will, and
Right.
kind of doing
Yeah.
your own thing. What do you like most about, like, kind of this freedom?
Setting my own schedule.
Yeah.
Setting my own schedule. Do I want to do this? Yes. Do I not want to do that? No. You know, it's like the old line from The Office, Dwight Schrute. Someone once said, ask yourself, would an idiot do this thing? And if an idiot would do this thing, I do not do that thing. So I have turned down plenty of opportunities to do stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not really what I want to do anymore. So I'm very happy to be working with the folks at DraftKings. I'm very happy to be working with the folks at Amazon and Wondery for the Alternate Routes podcast. I'm very happy to be working with the PGA Tour. Very happy to be doing assignments for NBC Sports, the U.S. Open, the Open Championship. I enjoy those things very much. And if opportunities arise when things that I want to do come up, I will do them. But if not, I will not do that thing.
Fair enough. And what are you most excited about of your current ventures that you're doing now or going forward? Just all of them together?
Again, all of them, just they're all different they're all very different in very unique ways. Like live events to me are always the most fun. Calling something as it happens, that's really fun. And when you're doing that in golf play-by-play, and whether it's for the PGA Tour or whether it's for NBC Sports, that I think is the, like, being at the live events is really, really fun. I enjoy that very much.
Like feeling the
I
energy.
I enjoy the alternate routes universe because we're trying to see how things might have been different if one thing goes the other way. And and then obviously my love for football is always strong. So I enjoy just being immersed in that every fall. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the premise of your podcast, the alternate routes. Like, I mean, especially in sports, it's like we're talking about another one on TV the other day. It was like, if Greg the Leg missed that field goal for the Jets, the Commanders would have been able to draft Jaden Daniels. And it's crazy the little ripple effects of all these.
That's the whole point. Like if the Bears, what if the Bills had not traded up allowed the Chiefs to trade up from 27-10 to get Patrick Mahomes? Bills might actually have won a Super Bowl, but that guy is a dagger in their hearts. The Bills come into Arrowhead all the time and win in the regular season. They are 0-for-3 against Mahomes and the Chiefs in the postseason, and he just absolutely kills them, including with 13 seconds left to play in that divisional game a couple of years ago.
Well, I appreciate you going through your whole journey. I learned a lot, and I love the way your mind thinks of being willing to fail and just getting out of your own way.
Everybody fails. Everybody fails. Like, I always tell people this if they think about getting into the business. Don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the glory or the headlines, whatever. Do it because you love it. Because there's no guarantee the other stuff is ever going to happen. And a million times somebody will tell you you're not good enough. Like I was just sending out demo tapes, in the late 80s. I sent a tape to a tiny station, but it was a better station than I was at in New Hampshire. And I'll never forget the response I got back from the news director. He says, well, this tape is small time. You're small time, and you'll always be small time. That guy went to jail for tax evasion. Well, I kind of like that part of the story. I don't know where he is now, but, turns out he might have been a little wrong. So the point being, life will give you 100 reasons to stop. People will be in your way. You decide. Everyone needs to decide for themselves. You decide when the journey is over. Don't let anybody else decide that for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And then I would be remiss if I didn't at least talk a little football with you while I have you here. We're about a quarter-ish, 4 weeks into the NFL season.
Yeah. 17th game really messes up the quarter pole situation.
Yeah, it does. Well, when we get to 18, maybe it'll be a little love thirds, I guess, thirds of the season. But from someone that watches a lot of football, what are your predictions of seeing Super Bowl predictions, or who do you think is going to exceed their expectations going forward for the rest of the year?
Well, Minnesota Vikings have been the most surprising team to me. I did not see them getting off to this great start. Sam Darnold, like we talked about, took a little time. Now he's playing at a very high, potentially MVP level. I'm going to be the last person off the Chiefs train.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie too many times. People are already saying, oh, the offense doesn't look good. He's got nervous feet. Well, they're 4-0. I think they've won 10 straight games. I think they've won 9 straight by 7 points or less at the time of this taping. They've won their last 12 games when they've been down by exactly 10 points, weirdly enough, crazy. Including this past Sunday against the Chargers. And people are like, well, they don't have Hollywood Brown. They may not have Rashee Rice. It looks like there may be some little more positive news there. They don't have Pacheco. They got 15, and they got Andy Reid. At no point last year were the Chiefs in any way, shape, or form did they look like the best team in football until they won the whole damn thing, right? People are like, oh, Mahomes never on a road playoff game. Fine, take care of the Dolphins at Arrowhead. Go to Buffalo, beat them there. Go to Baltimore, beat them there. Down 10 points in the Super Bowl to San Francisco for the second time in 4 years. Beat them there in overtime. The coldest thing I've ever seen in sports was a text that Patrick Mahomes sent to his family before the final regular season game last year where he didn't play. They were playing the Chargers. And the text was, I've decided we're going to win the Super Bowl. Not that I think we can get there. I think we have a chance. I think if everything goes our way. No, I've decided. Like no one else's opinion or play mattered. And what happened in the Super Bowl? The Chiefs had one touchdown drive in the Super Bowl. The other one was after a muff punt. He hit Marquez Valdes-Scantling for a quick score. They had one sustained drive for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And when was it? In overtime. when they needed a field goal to tie or a touchdown to win. Eff it. I've decided I'm going to win this game. And that's exactly what he did. So I will be the last person ever out on Kansas City. I do think that Buffalo is still going to be good. I think Baltimore's still going to be good. The NFC is wide open. I don't think there's one team that's really, really super. Minnesota's off to a good start. San Francisco, if they get a little healthier, I think they might have the best roster in football. They just don't have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, which is not a knock at Purdy. Patrick is on a different level. He just knows how to win. Like people were complaining about the offense in that game. Well, he took a touchdown drive basically on the ground against that Chargers defense, and then when they needed a first down to run out the clock, they got a first down to run out the clock. Victory formation. So I will be the last one out on Kansas City. I can promise you that.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're on the same page as me, where if you had to bet the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl or take the field, it sounds like you'd take the Chiefs.
As long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are there, yeah, that's exactly what. And Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. By the way, Travis Kelce's washed. Well, 7 catches, 89 yards, 13 yards a catch. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, he's doing just fine. And then who would you think the 49ers are the best team in the NFC right now, or who would you predict to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
Well, look, San Francisco is dealing with a lot of injuries, and the Christian McCaffrey thing isn't good. But, there's a lot of unevenness across the NFC. Minnesota there's only 2 undefeated teams. It's Minnesota, Kansas City. But very rarely do you see the last 2 undefeated teams make it to Super Bowl Sunday. The Eagles have flaws. The Cowboys have flaws. The Niners have health issues. I'm intrigued by Washington because every year we have this team that goes from worst to first. And I really like Jaden Daniels when he played at Arizona State before he got to LSU when he was with my good friend Herm Edwards. So, I'm curious to see what the Commanders can do. I really like Dan Quinn. I love the fact that he turned down a couple of head coaching jobs to sort of get back to his roots and stay in Dallas as the DC for a few years. Really, I do think the NFC is wide open. Detroit obviously is very, very good, and they came so achingly close to the Super Bowl last year. They had a double-digit lead in that NFC Championship game before they let it slip away. So. I think Detroit is as good as anybody in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I'd agree, especially if Jared Goff plays perfect like he did last night.
18-18 is not bad. Yeah, 18-18 is not
yeah.
bad.
All right, well, that was all the questions I had for you. Appreciate you coming on. Was there anything else you'd like to plug, or where can the people find you?
No, just same places. As I said, DraftKings Network Monday and Thursdays during the season, 6 o'clock Eastern. PGA Tour, NBC Sports, Alternate Routes Podcast, Amazon, Wondery, wherever you get your podcasts.
There it is. All right, well, appreciate you coming on the show. That's all I got for you. Thanks. Thank you, Trey Wingo, and that's a show.